Vedika Bahl is here in studio. Vedika, you are taking us back to Gaza, our top story this evening. Israel has been slamming the Global Hunger Monitor's declaration that Gaza City is officially in famine, calling it Hamas propaganda. But Israel is also refuting the methodology used to declare famine, accusing the report of manipulating the figures. What exactly does this mean?
That's right, Sharon. Well, as we know, famine was officially declared in Gaza City and the surrounding areas last Friday by the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, or the IPC, the globally respected and UN-backed hunger monitor. And yes, as well as accusing the IPC of being manipulated by Hamas, Israel is also accusing the IPC of a flawed, biased methodology being used in the IPC's report in declaring famine in Gaza. Now, if we take a look at this post on X by the Israeli Foreign Ministry, it says here that in other countries, the IPC declares famine at 30% malnutrition. But in Gaza only, the IPC lowered the bar to 15%, and it based it on unreliable data. They didn't find famine, so they forged one. Now, I saw many official Israeli accounts share similar sentiments as this. This is one by the spokesperson of the ministry, again, talking about a tailor-made fabricated report, mentioning that cutting from 30% to 15% for this report only, and saying that there is no famine in Gaza. So again, like I said, essentially the accusation here that the IPC has manipulated its measurements on how it declares famine and how it measures famine, and halved it from 30% to 15%, which isn't done for other famines. And what I can clear up straight away, Sharon, there's a lot of the pieces of the puzzle missing here. The 15% threshold and the 30% threshold are entirely different things. They are entirely separate measurements, in fact.
So essentially, Vedika, there are two separate ways that the IPC actually determines famine.
That's right. The IPC has two distinct calculation methods, each with its own threshold. And if we take a look at the IPC's report on the famine in Gaza, it says how is famine classified. And it is true that they have put 30% in big letters there. But if we take a look at the asterisk that is present by that number, it does say or 15% based on a different calculation. So it has been transparent about that from the beginning. But in terms of what those two classifications are and those two methodologies are, method one has a famine threshold set at 30%. So that is the one that Israel is referring to. And this is when malnutrition is measured based on a child's height and weight in order to determine how thin they are for their size. Now, I will say that this method one is considered more time consuming. It requires more resources and more data mapping and more equipment and meticulousness. Whereas method two has a famine threshold set at 15%. And this is where malnutrition is measured in children by measuring the upper arm circumference, or named as MUAC, MUAC. Now, this is considered easier to conduct in fields, especially war zone and things like that. It also determines how much of the muscle is wasting away in children. It's quick to implement, and of course, the thinner the arm, the thinner the child. Now, the IPC's technical manual did mention both of these in its methodology. This is not a secret anywhere. It has got phase 5 extremely critical. This is the height and weight measurements, and it has listed that at 30%. And we can see the MUAC, based on mid-upper arm circumference, is listed at phase 5, extremely critical, as 15%. And this is published in 2019, and this is how the IPC has been measuring famine since then. Now, the IPC has also been very transparent in how it's used its methodology to reach the declaration of famine in Gaza. It has said here in its own report that yes, it does normally, if it has both of those indicators, it prefers to conduct the weight and height measurement in order to classify malnutrition. But in absence of that, with lack of access, with lack of data from the Gaza Strip, it has then used the method two by the arm circumference measurement. It's also clarified that in order to declare this famine in Gaza and to measure this, it has taken a lot of other things into account. It says here it's had to go on contextual information. So things like the blockade that took place in Gaza, continuous displacement for Gazans and the fact that they're continuing to move, restrictions on aid, food coming into the Strip. It has taken all of that into account in terms of measuring malnutrition and starvation there. Now, I just want to finish this part, Sharon, by looking at data that the IPC published in its report, we can look at this from May to July 2025 in children under 5. It has 4% malnutrition in the first half of May, but that figure has just absolutely soared by the end of July to over 16%. And this is measured by their partners on the ground, people like nutrition clusters, NGO, Médecins du Monde. But this rate has doubled every 4 weeks, we should say. And I think that's a good place to end this part, Sharon.
And finally, Vedika, then how would you sum up everything that you have been able to determine with this fact check?
Well, Israeli authorities claimed that it was tailor-made, this report was tailor-made for Gaza and the methodology had been changed, but I would say that leaves out a lot of information. Both of these methodologies have existed since 2019, and the IPC has used that methodology for all of the famines it's declared. It made it clear that it would prefer to use height or weight, but it's unable to. Therefore, it has reverted to its second methodology. It's also been transparent about the fact that it takes all those other contextual factors into account, and it's not able to have access to the strip for any other data. Now, I just want to end very quickly on a quote from an expert at a NGO who we spoke to earlier, and she said it's not because they didn't want to collect data, it's because they weren't able to collect it. To my knowledge, there's never been a case where the IPC classifications didn't reflect reality. And she says in Gaza and Sudan, where famine has been declared, the IPC classification is completely corroborated by our field analysis. So she believes the IPC's classification is reliable, and I think that's all we have to say about that. We've looked at all the methodologies compared to what Israel has had to say.
Thank you, Vedika, for going through all of that. That's Vedika Bahl with tonight's Truth or Fake. Do stay with us. We'll be right back.